It is possible to commit nearly any crime by computer. You could even kill a person using a computer. A Los Angeles Police Department officer. 00000001. Chapter 1. The battered white van made her uneasy. Lara Gibson sat at the bar of Vesta's Grill on De Anza in Cupertino, California, gripping the cold stem of her martini glass and ignoring the two young chip jocks standing nearby, casting flirtatious glances at her. She looked outside again, into the overcast drizzle, and saw no sign of the windowless Econoline that she believed had followed her from her house a few miles away to the restaurant. Lara slid off the bar stool and walked to the window, glanced outside. The van wasn't in the restaurant's parking lot, nor was it across the street in the Apple computer lot or the one next to it belonging to Sun Microsystems. Either of those lots would have been a logical place to park to keep an eye on her, if the driver had in fact been stalking her. No, the van was just a coincidence, she decided. A coincidence aggravated by a splinter of paranoia. She returned to the bar and glanced at the two young men who were alternately ignoring her and offering subtle smiles. Like nearly all the young men here for happy hour, they were in the casual slacks and tie-less dress shirts and wore the ubiquitous insignia of Silicon Valley, corporate identification badges on thin canvas cords around their necks. These two sported the blue cards of Sun Microsystems. Other squadrons here represented were Compaq, Hewlett-Packard, and Apple, and not to mention a slew of new kids on the block, start-up internet companies which were held in some disdain by the venerable Valley regulars. At 32, Lara Gibson was probably 5 years older than her two admirers, and, as a self-employed businesswoman who wasn't a geek connected with a computer company, she was easily 5 times poorer. But that didn't matter to these two men, who were already captivated by her exotic, intense face, surrounded by a tangle of raven hair, her ankle boots, a wild red and orange gypsy skirt, and a tight black tank top that showed off hard-earned biceps. She figured that it would be 2 minutes before one of these boys approached her, and she missed that estimate by only 10 seconds. The young man gave her a variation of a line she'd heard a dozen times before. "Excuse me, don't mean to interrupt, but hey, would you like me to break your boyfriend's kneecap for making a beautiful woman wait alone in a bar? And by the way, can I buy you a drink while you decide which kneecap?" Another woman might have gotten mad. Another woman might have stammered or blushed or looked uneasy, or might have flirted back and let him buy her an unwanted drink because she didn't have the wherewithal to handle the situation. But those would be women weaker than she. Lara Gibson was the queen of urban protection, as the San Francisco Chronicle had once dubbed her. She fixed her eyes on the man's, gave a formal smile, and said, "I don't care for any company right now." Simple as that. End of conversation. He blinked at her frankness, avoided her staunch eyes, and returned to his friend. Power. It was all about power. She sipped her drink. In fact, that damn white van had brought to mind all the rules she developed as someone who taught women to protect themselves in today's society. Several times on the way to the restaurant, she'd glanced into her rear-view mirror and noticed the van 30 or 40 feet behind. It had been driven by some kid. He was white, but his hair was knotted into messy brown dreadlocks. He wore combat fatigues and, despite the overcast and misty rain, sunglasses. This was, of course, Silicon Valley, home of slackers and hackers, and it wasn't unusual to stop in Starbucks for a venti skim latte and be waited on by a polite teenager with a dozen body piercings, a shaved head,